What's up, homies? With Phase 3 around the corner, I've been getting asked a lot about what I'll be going for in terms of gearing for Phase 3, and after countless hours from not just myself, but also the hive mind that is the Warlock Discord, your one-stop shop for everything and anything Warlock related, we've been able to narrow down some Phase 3 lists. So this video will be all about Phase 3 best in slot gear for Affliction Warlocks. I won't go too in-depth into the many options and alternatives because I will be doing an in-depth video going over all of that and more soon once we get more sims and research done for you guys. I just wanted to get an actual Phase 3 BiS list out so you can start looking ahead a little bit. You can also expect the in-depth versions of these to have much more options and alternatives and will be out next weekend. Before we begin, would you mind please hitting that thumbs up to like this video and toss me a follow? I would really appreciate it. Thank you. And I stream over on Twitch at twitch.tv/CricksVibes. Anyway, this video will contain both Horde and Alliance. However, it can be super confusing because literally every single piece of gear that drops inside the new raid has a different name on it, depending on if you're Horde or Alliance. A quick example is the best in slot necklaces. On Horde, it's called Cry of the Valkyr, whereas the Alliance version is called Wail of the Valkyr. Another example is the tier sets. For Horde, it's Gul'dan's, and for Alliance, it's Kel'Thuzad's. I think Gul'dan's looks way better, by the way, so Horde wins this. Zug zug. So to make this hopefully less confusing, I'll have both factions up at the same time. The only difference between the Horde and Alliance Phase 3 BiS is the gem that's inside the wand. There's a 12 spell power, 10 hit rating called a Veiled Ametrine? Don't know how to say it, but that gem is in the wand socket, whereas the Alliance has a Reckless Ametrine in there because that has a 12 spell power and the 10 haste. This is because Alliance gets a little more hit from having the Draenei in their party, and having that extra 10 hit rating from the Veiled puts Horde right above the 14% hit mark. And while we're on the topic of gems, Phase 3 finally brings epic gems, and a lot of them. Fortunately, there's only a few that you'll be using. You have the two that you're going to need to activate your meta gem. It's called a Purified Dreadstone. It has 12 spell power and 10 spirit. You have the Veiled Ametrine that I was talking about earlier, which is the half a hit gem you need, 12 spell power and 10 hit. Then you have the Reckless version of it, which is the 12 spell power and 10 haste. Then you have the full hit gems called Rigid King's Amber for 20 hit, and then you have the full spell power gems called Ruined Cardinal Rubies for 23 spell power. Now, as you probably know, Phase 3 introduces a new raid called Trial of the Crusader, TOC, or the harder, heroic version of the raid called Trial of the Grand Crusader, TOGC. Not only that, but there's a 10-man and a 25-man versions of the raids. With that comes a ton of gear, and it's all pretty exciting, because as you can see, you replace almost all of your gear, outside of your two trinkets, if you're able to get them by now, called Scale of Fates and Flare of Heavens, which are both extremely strong, plus the new available trinkets just aren't that good. Reign of the Dead, or Reign of the Unliving if you're Alliance, can be tempting, but it does not proc off your dot ticks, which is a majority of your damage as Affliction, making it just not worth it. Conductive Seal is another piece that you can still plan to use in Phase 3. While there are a handful of new rings that drop in the raid, only one will beat out your current ones, and that's Lurid Manifestation. Or if you're Alliance, it's called Band of Deplorable Violence. This is a strong upgrade to your current ring. To pair with that ring, you'll want to continue using Conductive Seal, since none of the new rings can really replace it. Of course, as always, there's a plethora of new rings that come from the new raid that have a good amount of hit on them if you're looking to make up some hit from elsewhere, so keep that in mind. You will also still be using Petrified Ivy Sprig Wand. There's another very good wand that drops in the new raid called the Scepter of Imprisoned Souls, or the Rod of Imprisoned Souls if you're Alliance. It just loses out slightly to Petrified Ivy Sprig. However, this is a very good wand if you find yourself over hit cap, as the Ivy Sprig has 33 hit on it. All the rest of the gear is new and quite powerful, starting with the Tier 9 set. As mentioned earlier, for Horde, it's called the Gul'dan's Regalia, and for Alliance, it's called Kel'Thuzad's Regalia. Both look pretty good, but in my opinion, the Horde definitely wins the looks on this one, and well earned since it's named after the legendary warlock himself, Gul'dan. As for the set bonus, the 2 set increases your pet's critical strike chance with all of its attacks by 10%, which is nothing too crazy. However, the 4 set increases the damage by your corruption and your UA by 10%. This is a solid boost to your damage to your main 2 dots, meaning you'll want to get your 4-piece as fast as you can. As for which 4 to choose, you want the hood, shoulder pads, gloves, and leggings of Triumph. This is the highest outcome for your 4 set, with Skyweaver vestments filling in your 5th slot as your chest piece. This is not only the current highest simming setup for your tier 9, but there's nothing that really comes close to it in terms of stats. Plus it also comes with 86 hit rating, which is the perfect amount to balance the rest of your hit out, since there's virtually no hit on most of your other tier 9 pieces. Also notice that on the chest, it's now more beneficial to use a plus 10 stats to chest enchant instead of the 15 spirit one. It's the only enchant that changes with Phase 3. For your neck, you'll want to use the Cry or Wail of the Valkyr. This is much less exciting, as this is a very tiny upgrade compared to your Phase 2 neck, but also doubles as a way to get rid of some of your excess hit. For your cloak, you want to use Aethys' Intensity if you're Horde, otherwise that's called Jaina's Radiance if you're Alliance. This is a very, very powerful cloak that is an all-around upgrade, but it will also be harder to obtain since you must clear the heroic version of this raid with absolutely no wipes, 0 wipes. Not only that, but I'm pretty sure only 1 cloak drops from the chest at the end, and every class has a cloak that drops from it, meaning it'll be highly contested. Shroud of Displacement is a decent alternative, however you will have to shuffle around some hit because this cloak has a huge chunk of it on it. Next up is the bracers, and the best options is Binding of the Ashen Saint or Armbands of the Ashen Saint if you're Alliance. They are simply a direct and tiny upgrade to the Grasp of Reasons, which are second best. So if you have Grasps, I would not worry too much about Ashen Saint. As for your belt, the best option is Belt or Cord, if you're Alliance, of Tenebrous Mist. There are a handful of belts that drop into OGC, however all of them not only have a huge chunk of hit rating that we don't need, but are either short a socket or the stats are not optimized for Affliction, swapping Spirit for spell power or hit for crit, which is something we don't really want to do anymore. Unless you're starving for hit, of course, which I highly doubt any of us will be, since so much of the gear inside of this new raid has hit on it. For legs, we already mentioned this was going to be the tier 9 legs, but I did want to mention both Breaches of the Deepening Void and Pants of the Soothing Touch. Both of these pants are extremely good alternatives when paired with using the tier 9 chest to complete the 4 set. The only problem is that the Breaches of the Deepening Void comes with a massive amount of hit, especially considering your T9 chest has a massive amount of hit as well, making it very difficult to drop your hit on your other pieces. Thus, it's not really suggested. Pants of the Soothing Touch, however, does not have any hit, plus comes with another socket, making it much more realistic, and last I checked, it wasn't simming super far behind the BiS setup. However, once again, this will not beat out using T9 legs and the Skyweaver chest. As for boots, sandals, or boots for Alliance, of the Morning Widow are the best options. There are only 2 upgrades in this phase, the boots I just mentioned, and then the boots of the Icy Flow. Both are only slight upgrades in comparison to phase 2 boots of the Fiery Resolution out of Ulduar, so I'd not worry too much about these quite yet. Boots of Icy Flow lose out to Morning Widow on stats, but also Icy Flow has a ton of hit on it that we once again do not need. However, if you find yourself somehow needing hit on gear, then of course these will be an excellent option. Lastly is the weapons and offhands. If you have Star Shard's Edge, then there aren't too many upgrades for weapons. Barb or Blade of Alliance of Teresk, I'm not sure how to say that, is a cracked out version of Star Shard's Edge. It's got more spell power, a little more hit, the same socket, but also comes with 57 hit, making this the best option for weapons. An extremely close alternative is Mortalis's for Horde, or otherwise known as the Blade of Unbroken Covenant for Alliance. This has a little more spell power, but sacrifices the hit for a chunk of critical strike, meaning that if you do use this blade, you will need to get the hit rating from any of the other pieces of gear that we talked about in this video. As you saw, there are a ton of hit gear in this raid, so that shouldn't be an issue. You're lucky to obtain either of these weapons if you get one, and I wish you the best of luck of getting one. As for offhands, you have a few options with Lightbane Focus, Talisman of Heedless Sin, and Mystifying Charm, with the best option out of those being Lightbane Focus or Chalice of Benedictus if you're Alliance. This is the only offhand with not only a large amount of haste rating, but also a nice socket to add with it. Well, that's it for Phase 3 BiS. Like I said in the beginning, I'll have an in-depth Phase 3 gearing guide out next weekend that I do with all my slides, a lot like I've done with the previous tiers. There we'll be going over many options for each armor slot. I just wanted to get something out for you guys to get you started, so stay tuned. And for you demo locks out there, I'll have yours up in 2 days. Until then, keep on blasting and good luck with the loot, homies. Please hit that follow button on your way out, check out the stream, and please like the video. Also, let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Big cheers. Peace.